Tom.
Right, Callie, the big plan. What's the big plan again?
Lips are sealed, hero.
Come on. I helped build this place. Don't you think I should be in the know?
I think you should be focused on winning the invitational, not showing off to our senior physicist.
Thought she was a biologist. You all look the same to me.
But women?
Nerds.
You know what, Ace? I think I will help you with that photo shoot.
Ah, really? Awesome.
Of course. Could you just stand a little to the left?
Like this?
Perfect. Say nerd. Keep bugging my staff and this goes viral.
Oh, no, come on. Please don't tell Callie.
Showtime.
How to do nothing. Gaming is a great way to do nothing with your mates. Best part is, you can pretend you're in the NBA. Even when you're in your stepdad's garage.
「なぜいつもここに来るんですか？フルーツならデリバリーもできます。お金もあるんですし。
金持ちはただ待っていろと？私をそんな風に見ていたのか。
いえ、でもここは人が多すぎます。
お前は信頼できる子だが、少し肩の力を抜いたらどうだ。でないと大切なものを見落としてしまうぞ。この果物とかね。これを一つ。ヒロ、どうした？震えているぞ。
さて、
お！
ここに。
Now it's time for New Belt Nitro Signal! And he fell for it! He's looking to give coverage for his teammate Bryce. Can he lock it down? Yes, he can, but the swing's in. Has to find it. No time! Pun has to swing in. Geordie's pulled off. He lost the round.
Camera in position.
Get behind me!
Tango located.
Hostiles in sight!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rocket LPL Pro Rainbow Six Season 2 tournament. My name is Proto, and joining me, as always, is Spud. I was absent in week 1, but we're back. We're here for week 2. Spud, how you doing?
I'm doing really well, really glad to have you back. But yeah, we've had some exciting games so far, and definitely there's going to be more exciting games coming out this week and the following weeks as well. So it's good to have you here ready to break it all down with me.
Well, for everyone like myself who missed last week, just a quick reminder for the tournament format. We are doing 7 teams coming into best of 1 round robins for 7 weeks. We then go into the best of 3 final playoffs and then a best of 5 finals for the actual overall final. But these players fighting it out for something at the end of the day, their share of a $3,000 AUD prize pool, with first place walking away with $1,200 for themselves.
Yeah, that's a big chunk of cash I could definitely use with $1,200, sorry. But yeah, lots to go on the line here. So these teams will definitely be giving it their best shot trying to get their hands on that prize money.
Indeed, they are. But last week we saw some of the best plays we've seen for this season so far, given that it was the first play day. But I mean, Spud, break it down. I missed out on it, but you were there in the thick of it. How do you think play day 1 panned out?
Look, I think it panned out pretty well for Kraken here. Kraken, they put on a really, really dominant performance in Oregon that first game of the season for them. I mean, it was a 7-1 victory, and there was only a single round loss to Real Demons, and that was right at the start. Afterwards, it was just Kraken all the way, all throughout the scoreboard. And, you know, the highlights you're seeing here definitely representative of that. A really, really nice performance from them.
Yeah, everyone's sort of shaking off the rust a little bit, I think, given that we have sort of had a short break from competitive moments. But I mean, we saw teams like UG, like NQ getting back into the swing of things as per usual. Largely expected, though. These teams hold themselves to high respect. We saw that for the last playday as well. But coming into playday number 2, I'd expect nothing but the best from everyone involved.
Yeah, definitely. There were some banger matches last week as well. And, you know, there was an 8-7 overtime. I think we might get a couple of clips of that coming up. But yeah, definitely Underground Gaming are not quite sure here. You see on the screen right now, it was a really nice 1v2 there coming out from Rock Eater, managing to get the diffuser down as well. So that was well played from him. And of course, the classic for those who've missed it, 3-6. You need to go back and watch this because this went from a 6-1 to a 3-6. all the way to overtime. So, you know, if you missed out, this is definitely one to keep your eyes out on.
And at the end of the last playday, I don't think we expected anything really too different given Kraken and their recent performances in tournaments elsewhere, but everything else has panned out on the leaderboard after playday number 1, relatively as we would have expected, Spud. Maybe would have expected UG and CS a little bit higher, but other than that, probably relatively normal.
Yeah, Team 7 put on a really great performance against F2 last week as well. As we mentioned, F2, they're coming straight out of Amateur where they went 7-0 in their previous season. So definitely a big step up for them. And they put on a pretty good performance, 7-3 loss against Team 7. But hey, that's 3 rounds. And there were a lot of rounds that I think definitely could have gone in the way of F2. So well done to them.
Well, speaking of F2, we do have our schedule for the night. Obviously, 4 games, the same as we had last week, but kicking off game number 1 for the evening. Not quite sure, taking on F2 for game number 2, Team 7 versus the Real Demons. Number 3, UG taking on Circular Spheres. And to round out the evening, Kraken versus Get a Grip LFO. Personally, the highlight for me is going to be that last game. But Spud, what are you thinking for the rest of the matches?
Yeah, 100% Kraken versus Get a Grip will be a really, really tough battle, especially for Get a Grip coming off of that victory last week against Circular Spheres. Now they want to take another step up, whereas so Kraken, they want to hope to put an end to Get a Grip's reign early on and consolidate their own as well. As for our very first map, of course, F2 against not quite sure. Definitely going to be difficult, not quite sure coming off of a win already. They're going to be building that momentum, whereas F2 want to get at least some more rounds on the board given how they went last week.
Well, as we delve a little bit deeper into the roster of Not Quite Sure, you spoke very briefly last week. The performance relatively good for them. I mean, they had a win. It was a 7-5 versus UG. So coming into this week, they do have that confidence under their belt going into their matchup. But on the other side of the card, F2, a team that last week left a little bit more from us to be desired. Spud, how do you think Not Quite Sure are going to fare in this match tonight?
Yeah, Not Quite Sure did seem to struggle a little bit last week against Underground. They started off kind of a little bit shaky. As you mentioned, the rust kind of taking some time to shake off, and they did manage to pick it up overall. So I definitely think that coming in from last week, they're going to be continuing that momentum. I don't think we'll see the same opening that we saw from them last week, where they did give Underground Gaming a few rounds early on. I think they'll be straight out of the gate. They'll be ready to fight straight from the get-go. And
for the aforementioned F2, the other side of the card for this evening's first game bout, I mean, a roster that has some pretty good potential coming up through the amateur side of things. Mez, Freezy, Lugia, Magpie, and Curvin. Players all looking to make names for themselves here in the Let's Play Live Lockout Pro Series.
Yeah, as we mentioned last week, they did do actually quite well against Team 7. Of course, it was a 7-3 loss, but again, there were rounds that could have gone in favor of F2, and a lot of that, brought in by this new talent, these players that perhaps Team 7 just weren't expecting to be performing quite so well. And I certainly think that could be a factor here coming into this match. If they can catch Not Quite Sure off guard, they could certainly find some rounds there.
And the head-to-head for game number 1 for us tonight, brought to us by Biocode Lab. I mean, Spud, 2 players that are key highlights from these rosters for myself, and I'm quite sure you can sort of mirror this image. Dirty from Not Quite Sure and Mez from F2. 2 players that have sort of had a little bit of that underdog story for themselves in recent.
Yeah, F2 Mez was really the star player last week. He was doing so much initiating, so much opening and taking ground and making those plays work for his team. It was all kind of centered around him. That's not to say he's a selfish player. In fact, I think very much the opposite. He enables his team to work well. I really want to see how that plays out today.
And speaking of Biocode Lab, if you want to get your hands on some Biocode Lab products, make sure to use code LPL20 at the checkout for 20% off. I mean, you can't really say no to that at all, Spud. But the maps for this evening, where are we going to be playing this match out between these 2 teams? I don't think it's going to be a surprise for anybody, given that how prevalent this map has been in recent competitive play. Ladies and gentlemen, we are off to Villa.
Yeah, we did see a little bit of Villa last week. Of course, the really, really long
We saw a lot
match.
of Villa last week.
Yeah, a lot of it. So I definitely hope we'll see more of it this week as well. Something along the lines of 8-7, I don't think is quite on the cards, but I certainly think that F2 at least will be able to put up a good fight. We could see it 7-4, 7-5 if they're improving on their result from last week. But I still think, it's going to be a Not Quite Sure victory.
Yeah, if I had to pick between these 2 teams, Not Quite Sure would probably be the favourite to walk away with it, just given they have a little bit more of that experience. They are a little bit more comfortable at the end of the day. I mean, we see them here locking in, ready to go for this matchup, Spud. It is no real surprise. I mean, this is the previous GZ roster with a couple of changes. I mean, we have Karma coming in. We also have the addition of Dirty as well. Fakers is relatively new to this roster. So some changes, but ultimately, they've been looking really good in recent play days.
Yeah, as we mentioned, experience bringing in that new talent as well keeps things fresh, make sure that there's that extra momentum to keep things going. So I definitely want to see how it plays out against this kind of I wouldn't say entirely rookie, but definitely less experienced team. The young gunners coming out here from F2. It's always a tale. We talk about the old washed, I used wash quite lightly, players against the new, young, fresh faces. It's always a great storyline.
Yeah, I definitely think that F2 are going to be somewhat considered as the underdogs in this instance, given that they, sort of as you mentioned, they're coming up through the amateur leagues. They haven't really touched too much in Tier 2 competitive Rainbow Six. So while, yes, they might have the mechanical prowess, speaking strategy-wise, I mean, we did see them struggle a little bit last week in their matchup, unfortunately not resulting in a win for them coming into playday number 2. So they are already on the back foot early, but provided they can get a win tonight and put themselves on the board with some points, I mean, they could still be on for a top-end leaderboard push if they can really start getting some wins behind them.
Yeah, well, last week we did see F2 actually manage to use their aggression quite successfully early on against Team 7, and they actually mentioned in the post-match interview that they did get a little bit tilted, that mental, was a little bit thrown off there, and I think that's something F2 can once again utilize. Throw in their weight early on, play aggressive, play in a way that perhaps Not Quite Sure aren't expecting, and then get those rounds early on the board. If they can get to Not Quite Sure before they manage to recover, then certainly, F2 are in with a chance here.
Well, Spud, as we are moments away from the first game, we head into things, but just before we get into it, we would like to thank Roccat. The Roccat ELO 7.1 Air Surround Sound RGB gaming headset is the next generation headset of today. Available now, make sure you check it out, but we are going to be checking out this first game here on Villa. Ladies and gentlemen, Not Quite Sure taking on F2 in our first game of the night, starting things off as always with the band. Spud, what are you expecting?
Look, I definitely expect an Azami band coming out here. Not Quite Sure, I believe, did actually take that option last week when they played on Bank and Villa. There's a lot of long angles that can be held as well. On the side of F2, though, they went kind of standard. They went the Jackal and Mirror on border. I think they're going to bring that out again this week.
Well, Jackal does go down, and with Knock being the next one to go. It is no real surprise given that, you know, Thatcher's had his change. Keep in mind we are playing on the new patch, so we've got the Impact EMPs to come in, the LMG nerf as well, Spud. We've had a lot of sort of interesting changes since the last patch. Valkyrie to go as well. The final defender maybe most likely a mirror if we had to pick. But other than that,
yeah,
a lot has really changed. LMG meta's in the bin. I mean, we've had so many operators come in. We've got Grim in play with no quarantine periods. So I'm hoping to see some interesting new strategies brought out here by these two teams.
Yeah, I like the versatility of some of the new utility that the operators are bringing, especially, as you mentioned, the Impact EMP grenade. That also frees up Thatcher to being played more because he's not banned all the time. And so, yeah, it gives more options, and that's something I always like, these players having more options to work with, and we see more creative strategies, and it's always good for the viewers.
Indeed it is, as we kick things off. Round number 1, F2 starting on the defense. So, I mean, arguably they do get a slightly better end of the card. I mean, defense on Villa, it hasn't been as strong as it was in the past. Attacking side usually being the favorite for teams, but albeit not quite sure, as we've mentioned, the experienced roster coming into this, Spud, F2 are going to have their work cut out for them no matter what side they start on, and they're going to have to dig deep.
Yeah, they're going to have to play defense one way or another, so might as well just get it over and done with here. I mean, it is a little bit of time, I suppose, to warm up. Defense does give them a little bit of breathing room, knowing that, okay, here's what we're going to do. We already have that in the back pocket. But not quite sure, certainly going to catch up really, really quickly, and F2 need to get those early rounds on the board.
Excited that Zofia AR has made its way back into the meta, but suppressors as well, we see those largely being rocked at the moment by members of Not Quite Sure. So already we are seeing the new changes be quite evident in the gameplay here, but as we kick things off, relatively straightforward start to the round. I mean, Not Quite Sure, just taking that control, opening things up, gaining information. It is a standard push from them at the moment, and we wouldn't expect anything else given that this map is so big. Carmen makes his way into the building and kicks things off, and Not Quite Sure.
I'm going to start with some vertical play from underneath, clear out maybe that bar area and make it a little bit easier to take the top main stairs. So I don't think they're going to be going through that master area extended roam clear approach. They're going to get onto site, hit it directly, and wait for those roamers to come back and try to overwhelm with brute force is my guess.
It looks like they may be setting up for some vertical nades here. Not quite sure. Looking to at least clear something out. Maybe play for an opening pick. They have already got top main cleared out and ready to go with the Flores in play, given that Thatcher isn't really as prominent now with the new EMPs brought in, the Impact EMPs. He is still being brought here by Prez, but with Flores and Thatcher in play, that is a lot of denial in hands of Not Quite Sure, sorry, and F2. I mean, they do have a lot of utility to be denied, but at the same time, they're not really using it at the moment. Still 3 Thatchers in the hands of Prez, waiting for Thatcher to really have some use.
Yeah, they're all kind of just grouped up at the bottom of top main, and that's time burning away as we go. I think they're just waiting for a member to peek, and Lugia has been playing it pretty safe, pretty clever, I might add. He's not overextending, he's using the smoke canisters to deny now, knowing that the time really is in favor of F2 here.
Well, all 5 members are from the south side, so that means they aren't going to have any control over towards the north, but it's Prez to open things up. Magpie falls in the first 40, Kakin to follow up with one of his own onto Freezy. Lugia tries to get aggressive, it doesn't pay off. Karma to find one as well onto Curvin, and very quickly, it's all up to Mez, a 1 versus 5. We spoke about him in the head-to-head, but can he get the job done? No kills at all. Fakers finishes it off. A flawless round for Not Quite Sure, and unfortunately for F2, that's not the start that they want.
Yeah, that brute force strategy really did end up working out for Not Quite Sure. They seemed to be burning a lot of time, but they didn't really have to worry. They opened up the wall they needed, they had sight, and all they did was just wipe out F2 on site. Having said that, of course, it is only the first round. F2 still have a lot of rounds to work on, and they've certainly got this Aviator game site again to try and improve on that. Hopefully they do put up a bit more of a fight here, as we mentioned, flawless round there, not quite sure.
I mean, we did see some damage come out, as well as obviously the utility being bought by the defense. I mean, Lugia still had 2 toxic canisters left to work with, 40 seconds. I mean, you can deny a good chunk of time with those toxic babes, but instead opted to get aggressive with the shotgun. Probably not the smartest choice there. Which we did see end up getting punished by Not Quite Sure, which did open the door for them given the denial was gone. But premise was there. They knew what they wanted to be doing, Spud, and they were playing off the information they had. But I mean, Not Quite Sure had some holes in that attack. No North presence really made things, it could have made things a lot easier for F2.
Yeah, I would like to see F2, if they kind of read into this push coming out from Not Quite Sure, that they're going to rotate their roamers over to challenge the library area. But speaking of which, it seems like Not Quite Sure are going to take the opposite approach. This time they will be approaching from that master bedroom area. I do like to see them keeping their attacks dynamic and different, just to keep F2 on their toes.
I mean, exactly. We spoke about it just now. We wanted to see them have some pressure, but F2, it's good to see that they have directly sort of played into it almost, but Karma is doing what Karma does best. He's shooting people. Freezy goes down, the first kill in favor of the attack once more. Karma actually almost claims a second on the Mez there, but with Astronomy control now, F2 do have 2 inside of Trophy rather, sorry, but unfortunately they're going to have to give it up. It's Not Quite Sure aggress into the building and do so much damage.
Yeah, one more as well too, I believe, in that study, and they're going to find the pick here. Lugia is going to play aggressive, but I'm not sure that's the right move. He's got 1 player on him, holding that long angle, and in fact, they seem to just have walked into sight. Where is site presence?
Mezen's walked away. We've got Curvin there, at least, to sort of be the on-site greeter. But at this point, I mean, we see Not Quite Sure spread. They have 90 control. They have control inside of study as well. And the kills once more are just flowing for them all across the leaderboard. It's Mez once more in the same position he was in moments ago, a 1 versus 5. And with the diffuser down now, low HP as well. I mean, he has 2 members from Not Quite Sure on blinking red, but it doesn't matter. Karma's going absolutely insane right now. Not Quite Sure bag another flawless for them.
So far, F2 just have not been able to put up much of a fight. They seem to have good positioning, but the gun skill displayed by Not Quite Sure is on another level. Pair that with the information, of course, coming out from Not Quite Sure, and F2, they're getting taken out before they realize what hit them, and that is really not the start you want here.
Yeah, F2 definitely sort of like a deer in headlights, I guess we could say, Spud. They have definitely been caught with their pants down 2 rounds in a row. I mean, Karma opens the door. He's got 4 kills for himself. Prez as well with 3 on the Thatcher. I mean, on the other side of the map, he just walked into study, killed 2 people, walked into site, and well, the round was over. And F2 really not displaying much control of what's happening. I mean, yes, they've got the presence. Yes, they have the player's utility set up. Yes, they have everything there for the premise of a good defense, but when it actually comes down to finding the kills, playing for those trades, F2 have really just not been there. They're almost absent in this match, and Not Quite Sure are capitalizing on that to a T in these rounds.
Yeah, I think a little bit of confidence boost coming out from F2 would really help take some gunfights, win them, and that would certainly give them at least some presence of mind to take those fights and challenge Not Quite Sure, because that is something they do need to do. Right now it seems they're getting caught when they're turned away, when they're looking the other way or running away, and that you'd rather take at least the head-on gunfight, do a bit of damage, at least then, you know, you've put up a fight as opposed to being caught out before you can do anything.
And I mean, with Karma just sort of entering in, and he's pretty much 100% for his entries. He has not died once, and he has not lost a gunfight yet. So that's a scary statistics. I know we're only 2 rounds in, but I mean, F2 have just not... they haven't found a kill spot. It is plain and simple. They have not done anything, really, to Not Quite Sure right now to slow them down in any shape or form. They tried changing the strat. Hopefully the site change will do something for them, but even still, Not Quite Sure barreling towards this site on the top floor with great pace.
Yeah, it did seem last week that F2 did a little bit better on the attack. So hopefully with the half switch, we will see F2 take it up a step. Once again, though, not quite sure, seem to be playing the attack a little bit slower. I don't think it's necessarily a slow pace. I think it's very measured and very careful. You see the drones coming out, the utility, trying to flush out this Astro player. Does a lot of damage to Magpie, but not quite enough to kill.
Yeah, Magpie definitely has felt a little better in his time, but Fakers opens it up, takes down Lugia, and unfortunately once more for F2, that means that they are already in a deficit, is not quite sure, find the first. Magpie tries to find one, but the Alder, it's not connecting for him at all. Karma again, 100%, he keeps the stack going, he finds Freezy, and Magpie pulls away, probably an advisable choice after that first issue, and there he goes, down for the count. Not quite sure, begin to collapse onto the bomb site.
Open now is making a late rotate, but it might be a little too late. He's approaching from the other side of the map, of the site, sorry. He doesn't even find President, and a third flawless round to clean things up.
F2, it is just... there is a very stark difference in what we are seeing right now, Spot. I mean, not quite sure. We spoke about experienced at the start of the match, but 3 flawless rounds in a row. I mean, my, that is a spectacle for any competitive team. F2 just outclassed and outgunned right now, and it is reflected in these rounds. I mean, we've got Karma, who is yet to die. Well, everybody from Not Quite Sure yet to die, but Karma with 5. I mean, Prez with 4 as well on the supporting factor. Those are insane numbers. 0 kills, 0 impact from F2 so far in this matchup. They've set the side up, and that's pretty much all they've done in these rounds, Spud.
Yeah, look, it really shows you what a national team can do, and you know, this is why they play at the national level. The level of, you know, just all-around siege is so much higher. F2, I still have hopes for them. I still think they can at least put a dent into those rounds, maybe get some kills on the board against Not Quite Sure, but they need to be doing so fast, and they need to find the mental to recover, because as we know, mental can be such a huge part, and I wouldn't dare to imagine what is going on for F2 at the moment.
If this works, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it works, because stuff like that will work against teams like Not Quite Sure. On the off day, if they get a little bit too confident, which they may well be. So hopefully maybe F2 have read into that and can find a little bit of a boost here, but I mean, at the moment it's not looking promising.
Yeah, they've gone back to the same first site, Aviator Games, given that trophy stat really did not seem to play out any different, so might as well pick the strongest site now at this point. Karma does take out Mez. I'm not sure if that... Yeah, no, Corvin's dead too. That was our last hope to play in the bathtub. Well, that's 3 players already down and haven't even hit site yet.
Everyone's gone, Spud. Within the first 30 seconds, 3 players dead for F2, and Not Quite Sure, other than Prez, taking about 30 damage. That is pretty much it. In the hands of F2. They don't really hold much control. They have a player at 90 who's on cam, and Karma's there to just wipe him off the face of the earth. Sophia AR just deadly in the hands of someone as mechanically gifted as he. But with Lugia on drone, the line scan comes out. He spots one running down the hall, but the SMG just not connecting. Karma forces his way in the maps. He finds his 8th and the 4th flawless round in a row for Not Quite Sure. F2 really struggling to do anything in this game.
Yeah, and just look at the amount of information coming out from Not Quite Sure. With that drone work, they've got the line scan, they're just locking down F2 and preventing them from, yeah, as you mentioned, doing anything. They can't move to support, they can't take those gunfights. It's just all falling apart for F2, and this is certainly a big difference last week when they at least managed to challenge Team 7, I think. Now, well, things are definitely not going well.
Yeah, not well at all, Spud, I think is, we don't need to sugarcoat it. F2 are struggling, and that is quite evident. They are now on their 3rd different site, 3 attempts of that have been ABG, and all 3 have been absolute washes from Not Quite Sure. Obviously, the 4th being the Master Side stat trophy, but we opt to move down to the kitchen to see if there's any hope here for F2, because they're going to need at least 1 round if they want to have a chance going into the half. But right now, that is not looking like a promising perspective at all, Spud.
I know that Dirty has a single kill as the Yana player, and I would criticize that as the entry having a single kill, but I think in this situation it's acceptable.
That's 100% KD ratio.
Yeah. Everyone's dead before he's gone.
He doesn't need to. He doesn't even need to be here right now. He's just on drones. He's doing his thing. He's vibing. For Not Quite Sure. I mean, F2 are doing their best to sort of compensate for the onslaught of Not Quite Sure. But when you've got Karma just running in, taking these head-ons, I mean, Prez as well backing him up on the Thatcher, there isn't a lot that you can do if you're F2. I mean, they tried to get aggressive. We saw that in the last round. They tried to play a little bit more strategically in the previous rounds, but it has not amounted to anything for them. And with 4-0 here, looking like a possible 5th is on the cards.
The aggression being brought up by Not Quite Sure is just something. I mean, F2 have not been able to find any answer for it, and in fact, I think they're a little bit cowed as well. They're being forced to fall back early, and Not Quite Sure getting a lot of territory for free, and that's certainly coming back to bite F2 as well, especially with this vertical play here.
Unfortunately for Mez, the Nitro doesn't connect, so that's a little bit of utility gone there. They do still have 2 more attempts here at a vertical kill, but in the hands of Lugia and Magpie, unfortunately they don't seem to be too close to the site to use those at the moment. And with Karma, again, finding another entry. 9 kills for him. He's almost on double digits already. Takes down Freezy on the Oryx, and I mean, F2. You got to make some changes at some point, because whatever you're doing is not working against Not Quite Sure at all at the current moment.
And they seem just to be hiding on site and not really doing too much to challenge Not Quite Sure. And at this point in time, you might as well go for the roam, go for this crazy plays, because it's just not working. By just sitting on site, you're giving something away for free. There it is. The first pick.
Ladies and gentlemen,
F2 have broken the curse.
F2, welcome to the game. Prez goes down, and it's Mez to break the curse. 2 1v5s, he finally makes his way onto the leaderboard, and with that, the rest of the team does as well. So there's that, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to F2. Not quite sure, though. Karma is not going to go out without a fight. He finds his 3rd in the round. What a shot! 4! He's on for all 5. He's looking for the last. He spots the head of Kermit, and he finds it! Karma with an ace, an absolute heater at that. It's not the 5th flawless in a row, but it is the round. And F2. It is just not happening right now. Oh my, Karma is on fire.
I mean, yeah, not a flawless, but Karma did get an ace, so I guess that evens out. At this point, it shouldn't be what the score is. It should be how many flawless rounds you can get. I hate to say it like that, F2, but, you know, it's just not going well.
Oh, gosh. On the 5th round, Karma finds 5. Fittingly, if we should say. 13-0, Spud. In 5 rounds. This is just an extended terrorist hunt right now. Karma is just running around with great drone work from his teammates, and he is shooting anything that he sees move, and it is dying 100% of the time. Nobody from F2 other than Mez has managed to make a dent at all in this matchup so far. So I guess we're glad we picked him for the head-to-head brought to us by Bycode Lab, but I mean, this is a masterclass from Not Quite Sure at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. If there's anything to learn for F2, it would be to go back through the squad, watch how Not Quite Sure play, and take away from that, learn from it, because this is really, really excellent siege from Not Quite Sure. The drone work has been impeccable. The way they've been playing together, holding those crosses, knowing when to push, when to fall back. is just superb, and definitely something that I hope the other LPL teams will be taking note of, if not to learn, at least to, you know, be a little bit more wary of what Not Quite Sure are bringing to the table here.
I mean, not even strategy-wise, this match has literally just been enable Karma Simulator. Get the drones out, you know, send him into the building and just support. Play the characters that are going to help him get the kills, and they've been doing exactly that. I mean, once more, completely avoiding this master bedroom side, which will open the door for Curvin to possibly get a kill towards the study side, and indeed he will. He will take down Dirty. But as we say that, Prez on the other side of the map finds one. So it's 1 for 1. Karma's just doing Karma things. He finds one. He finds two on the main stairs. No question whatsoever. Prez is planting the bomb, and I think we can write this round up already as a Not Quite Sure, because Freezy is in a 1 versus 4. He finds one on the window. He's looking for the second. A little bit of a teabag, and Prez is there to clean it up. No chance, no hope. Not Quite Sure, a flawless half. 4 flawless rounds as well, and an ace from Karma. F2, I don't think there's much prospect for them finding a single round in this matchup. It's match point already, and we're staring down the barrel of a quick one.
Yeah, I did say 7-4 earlier on, and I would like to revise my estimates. I'm glad I didn't bet anything on it, because I would certainly be very, very poor following this. I mean, poor is the only word that can describe how F2 are playing right now. They just haven't been able to put any dent into Not Quite Sure, who have just gone completely unchecked. 15-0. They've only had 3 deaths over 6 rounds. You know, that speaks for itself.
Indeed it does. And I mean, you know, at a tier 2 competition filled with teams that have played at tier 1, tier 2, I mean, there is a massively stark difference between a tier 1/tier 2 team, Not Quite Sure, compared to a tier 3 grassroots team, which is F2. I mean, there is a very, very stark difference. In most competitive games, you wouldn't see someone going 15-0 unless they were insane. And Karma definitely is that, but this is a different level of nuts. So, I mean, hats off to Not Quite Sure, but this is definitely probably going to be a quick one.
Yeah, I mean, 15-0, it speaks for itself, and especially in a game like Siege where you have such quick time to kills and in one-shot headshots, it's rare that a player gets away with so much, but Karma indeed has done so. Of course, he's been supported by his team, as we've mentioned numerous times. The drone work, the intel coming through is tremendous. But yeah, Not Quite Sure. There isn't really much else to say about it at this point. It's going to be a 7-0, and F2 won't be able to do a single thing about it.
It is difficult for us to break it down, but I mean, in saying that, Curvin finds the opener here. This is the first time F2 have found the opening kill. So, I guess you do have to look at that as a monumentous moment for them, as Not Quite Sure do sort of fall in the first moment here. And F2 now, to some degree, in the driving seat.
Maybe it really is a, you know, an attacker-sided map. Who knows? It's just that attacker-sided, guys. We're going to see a 6-6. We're going to get an overtime like we did last week. Who knows? I mean, last time it was a 6-1, remember? And then it went to an 8-7. So it's not entirely out of the cards, but based on how F2 have been playing,
okay,
I really need to see some more. Okay.
Easy. That's fine.
He's died!
He has
killed Karma!
Karma's gone down. So it's not an infinite KD anymore. He's 17-1. It's still 17.0 KD. So it's still insane. But he found 2 before being taken out. Curvin finds a second though. Kakin falls, and very quickly this has got a little bit more spicy, Spud. We have Fakers and Dirty in a 2 versus 3. 2 players that arguably can get the job done. They have some good utility as well. 3 gas grenades in the hands of Fakers. So provided they can find at least 1 kill, trade something out before getting back to the site, they will get some good damage on a Magpie, but this is the good openings here for them to possibly clutch this one up.
Yeah, F2 weren't quite fast enough with that line scan, were not able to catch Dirty as he fell back from that red stair position. Some good use of utility as well. They do manage to get rid of that aviator shield, which of course is a very, very powerful position. So now they've got 30 seconds and still, you know, a little bit of utility to work with. Grenades as well in play, so it's doable. Definitely a tough battle. Oh,
Fakers, unfortunate. Could have played for the toxic canister, but it's the damage that was dealt by Curvin for 3. Freezy to close it out with one of his own, and I mean, Spud, this is huge. F2 have found a round, so it's not a 7-0, not a complete washout. It is still match point though, and F2 do still need 5 rounds unanswered to take this map to overtime. I don't like the prospect of that whatsoever, especially given that that wasn't necessarily, probably not quite sure's main site setup. It definitely looked a little bit more roam oriented, but that is exactly where F2 took the advantage that they saw. I mean, they put players in the correct positions to lock down the rotates. We saw Curvin find 3 on that line. I mean, downstairs, he was shutting off bottom red, all of kitchen. He was the one that found a lot of, well, he found the opening kill, Prez, to go down. And then Karma ultimately being sacrificed as well at some point was a massive opening there for F2, and then the over-aggression at the end from Fakers ultimately probably caused them that loss. But in saying that, they have plenty of buffer room to make those mistakes and have those rounds. So provided they don't do it 5 more times in a row and we don't have a repeat of the Circular Spheres game versus Get a Grip last week on Villa, this is still going to be a relatively quick one.
Yeah, I mean, we did see last week, mental can be a bit of a play there. Team 7 did get a little bit tilted early on, get a little bit thrown off, and that's not quite sure. You don't want to be making the same mistake. You don't want to be getting too ahead of yourselves and throwing rounds away, because we all know what happens when you throw rounds on Villa. But yeah, as you mentioned, still very, very difficult for F2. Not something I'd put money on, but, you know, there's a glimmer. A small glimmer of hope that could easily be ended by Karma just shooting people, but no, it's there.
It is there, the hope and dream. Magpie really struggling in this game, not only to find kills, but also to shoot that mute jammer, unfortunately. But he will get it, and he will make his way into Astro, clearing out this utility, but Karma's already fallen back. They've given it up a lot earlier than they did last time. So for F2, taking a minute to clear this side of the map out when nobody is there, I mean, a little bit of misdroning coming in from them right now, because they should have been through here a lot quicker than they have been.
Yeah, that aggression that we saw from F2 is kind of missing here, but I wouldn't entirely blame them. I mean, not quite sure. We're quite very fond of that roam and did like, you know, taking those early fights. Freezy, however, does actually take the early fight onto Karma and win. His KD's been dropped in half again. That's impressive.
Well, Karma's down, and that is a huge kill for F2 here. Perez still holds a good position on the red stairs. The burn does start to come out, and his team are trying to support him from just inside of Trophy. The shots flying both ways, but nothing connecting for either side. Someone's looking to aggress. It is Perez to find some damage, but no kill. He is weary of someone dropping down to the bottom of red here. He will hear the beeper. Does he find the gunfight? No, nothing has really happened. And F2 really struggling to clear the shred player out, but finally Lugia takes it at a cost of a lot of his health.
A lot of time spent as well. There's a minute remaining now. They've got 5 players, so they have a 2-player advantage, but they need to press home on this. We've seen Not Quite Sure drop those multi-kills, 2, 3. It's very, very doable for them, so they need to make sure they don't give away anything for free like that.
What a shot from Dirty Magpie. Unfortunately, not going to have too much effect in this round. Dirty's hunting for more. He's hungry, caking to take down Curve, and Not Quite Sure fire back with some kills of their own. They equalise the man count, a 3 versus 3. Caken opens the wall up. Dirty, some good damage on Nemez, but the bomb not yet in the sight. Vault is open. The avenues are there, but Fakers, no, sorry, it's been denied. The wall is not opened at all. There are no avenues here for F2 to walk in through. They are going to have to force the fights. Lugia goes down, yet to be confirmed. Dirty to find another on the Mez, and it's all up to Freezy on the main stairs. He's coming round late from the flank. He finds the head of Dirty, but he doesn't find any more. The GG's in chat, and Fakers closes it down. Not Quite Sure with a very convincing 7-1, and unfortunately for F2, not too much was achieved.
Did get 1 round on the board there, so, you know, that is something they can note. They did get the 2 opening picks though in their attacks, so that is something to be said about how they're leading with the drones and the guns as well. But again, not quite sure, just a really, really dominant performance. It was almost a 7-0. I did say it was going to be 7-0 and F2 couldn't do anything about it. And of course, they proved me wrong. So I guess, nice. Well done, guys. Way to go. Always proving me wrong. But hey, that's how it goes as a caster, right?
Indeed, it is. I mean, even still, Spud, one round, probably not what would have been desired. I'm surprised that they got it, if we're being completely honest. I mean, the first 6 rounds, it wasn't fair. Karma was literally just walking around and shooting everybody. They could not do anything about it. They tried changing the playstyle. It didn't work for them. And we came to the half at 6-0, sorry. F2 find 1, but at that point, I mean, Spud, it was maybe even charity. They did a really good job, but it was not enough. I mean, there were so many mistakes in that game from F2 that not quite sure were just completely outclassing them in most respects. And we see that even here in the replays.
Yeah, F2, just when they made those mistakes, not quite sure, were sure to capitalize on them. They knew about it. They would punish them heavily for that. And I guess that is one of the big differences between these teams in terms of their leagues, their tiers. You know that a high tier team will absolutely punish you when you do the wrong thing. And that's what happened with F2. All the mistakes picked up by not quite sure, and they went with it, they rolled with it. And F2 only able to find a single round after that. It
was pretty evident in the strategy side of things as well. For 4 rounds, nobody from F2 had a single kill in that game. 0 impact for 4 rounds, Spud. That is a lot of time, especially in a competitive Rainbow Six match. I mean, 4 rounds is almost half a game if you only go to 7 rounds. Well, it is. It's over half a game if you only go to 7 rounds. That nothing came from F2. And unfortunately, that was reflected in the overall outcome of the match. They did find 1, but that was it. Not quite sure. We're playing a different game of Siege, I think, to the one that F2 were playing, because the differences were so stark that it honestly, it blew me away. I mean, I expected a little bit more from F2.
Yeah, I kind of gave up taking notes around round 3, because then it was just, not quite sure killing everyone. Like, what do you want me to write about that? Like, everyone's dead from F2. That's it. I did like that they did pick things up later on. At least they were still willing to put up a fight, and I think that's a sign of good mental as well, that despite the results from that first half, they were still willing to go into that second half, take the attack, and at least take your round. So props to F2.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a very good chance for us to speak with one of the players. Prez, welcome to the booth. First of all, congratulations. An insane game from you guys. I guess we'll start things off relatively easy. Coming into tonight's matchup, were you expecting it to be such a closeout, or were you expecting a little bit more from F2?
I mean, we're coming into it definitely expecting to win. Maybe not in that fashion, of course, but we're not really surprised, I guess.
Yeah. How are you guys feeling throughout that match? Because after the first flawless round, definitely would have been really, really good, I imagine.
Yeah, no, it was good. We had a lot of fun with that one. Like, after the first few rounds, we're kind of just having fun with it, enjoying it. The comms were getting pretty crazy as well. So, yeah, it was a fun match. Yeah, there's not really too much to say about it, really. It was so quick, and it's not much to really do about it,
Oh, look, I mean, Spud was saying, we were both sort of saying that there wasn't really too much to take home from it. I mean, 4 flawless rounds, an ace from Karma, and a 7-1 at the end of the day is insane prospects. But, I mean, I guess the one thing we can ask, somewhat relevant, will be, what are you guys going to go to look for in next week? I mean, is there anything that you think you can be improving on after that matchup, or do you think you guys are relatively clean-cut and polished for next week?
I definitely think the one thing that one round we lost was definitely due to a bit of complacency. So just kind of making sure we're keeping a level head, no matter what the score is and no matter how good we're playing. And yeah, just staying consistent, really.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Prez. Very much appreciated. And again, congratulations. But, ladies and gentlemen, we do have some unfortunate news after game one. Game number 2 is not going to be played this evening. Unfortunately, we are going to have a forfeit from Real Demons, which means Team 7 are going to walk away with a 7-round forfeit win. And we are going to be heading to an extended break due to this forfeit. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a moment from this break.
How to do nothing. Gaming is a great way to do nothing with your mates. Best part is, you can pretend you're in the NBA. Even when you're in your stepdad's garage. How to do nothing. Gaming is a great way to do nothing with your mates. Best part is, you can pretend you're in the NBA. Even when you're in your stepdad's garage.
it up. Drive it up. You can't. I don't know. Yeah.
How to do nothing. Gaming is a great way to do nothing with your mates. Best part is, you can pretend you're in the NBA. Even when you're in your stepdad's garage.
Drive it up. Drive it up. You can't. I don't know. Yeah.
なぜいつもここに来るんですか？フルーツならデリバリーもできます。お金もあるんですし。
金持ちはただ待っていろと？私をそんな風に見ていたのか。
いえ、でもここは人が多すぎます。
お前は信頼できる子だが、少し肩の力を抜いたらどうだ。でないと大切なものを見落としてしまうぞ。この果物とかね。これを一つ。ヒロ、どうした？震えている。
セテ。
お。
ここに。
私の家に忍び込むなんて自殺願望でもあるの？
久しぶり、由美子。八幡さんが。
ええ。話は聞いたわ。
見覚えは？手伝ってもらう。仇は必ず撃つ。
get ready for the final round. Match in overtime.
Team Mara ties the game. Are you a betting man, Harry?
You assume I favor one side over the other. You know me better than that, Sam. Besides, I left my wallet at home.
Attackers, prepare for insertion. Team Mira to the map. Team Ash has breached the map.
How to do nothing. Gaming is a great way to do nothing with your mates. Best part is, you can pretend you're in the NBA. Even when you're in your stepdad's garage.
「なぜいつもここに来るんですか？フルーツならデリバリーもできます。お金もあるんですし。
金持ちはただ待っていろと？私をそんな風に見ていたのか。
いえ、でもここは人が多すぎます。
お前は信頼できる子だが、少し肩の力を抜いたらどうだ。でないと大切なものを見落としてしまうぞ。この果物とかね。これを一つ。ヒロ、どうした？震えている。
先生。
お。
ここに。
私の家に忍び込むなんて自殺願望でもあるの？
久しぶり、由美子。八幡さんが。
ええ。話は聞いたわ。
見覚えは？手伝ってもらう。敵は必ず撃つ。